All right, guys, I want to talk to you about New York State's green energy push. I'm not a pundit, I'm not a politician. I'm just an average American citizen who loves liberty, loves freedom, and loves America, but hates the way it's being run, and especially our state here in New York. It has turned into a democratic socialist dictatorship as opposed to representatives representing us citizens of the state. So I'm going to talk to you about why this green energy push is actually dangerous. Why is it not environmentally friendly? And what are they doing with our tax dollars in regards to this infrastructure and green energy? So let's get into it. New York State's green energy push. Why is it dangerous? Well, our grid is outdated, overloaded. We've all been through power outages. And by 2035, Her Majesty Der Fuhrer Kathy Hochul wants to have an entirely electric infrastructure, electric homes, electric vehicles, and whatnot. Now, if you have an all-electric home, and there's several people do, what's your electric bill like? I know some people who are spending $1,500, $2,000 a month or more on their electric bill because electric heat is widely inefficient. Now we hear our governor, she'll stand in front of TV and make snarky comments. Well, buy a heat pump. In fact, I heard a commercial on the radio yesterday, pushed through by the state, of some grant going on to install a heat pump in your home. These things, they're not cheap. Yes, they people who have them love them. They are efficient, for what they are, but they still run on electricity. So when you don't have power, when you don't have electric to run your heat pump, what's going to happen? You're going to be sitting in the cold, middle of winter, single degree temps. A windstorm comes through, just like what happened last year right before Christmas. There was tens of thousands of people out of power, for several days. Some communities it was a couple of weeks before power was restored, especially out towards Buffalo. Now, your pipes are going to burst, after they freeze. You can't keep your medicine safe. You can't keep your food safe. But you're being told that for the sake of the environment, you cannot have means to produce your own energy. You can't have supplemental heat like a wood stove, pellet stove, coal stove, outdoor wood boiler, and the like, because our dictators have determined that you're not allowed to have that by 2035. So keep that in mind. Now, why is that a problem? Some of you bleeding hearts out there, might want to do whatever it takes to save the environment. And I'm not against protecting the environment. In fact, I'm the exact opposite. I love nature. I love being out in the woods and exploring, the creation. So that being said, when the power does go out in these situations, and it will, regardless of whatever it is, our infrastructure, our power grid, and our means of power production, they're made by people. They can and will fail. So 2035 rolls around, you have an all-electric home, your pipes are bursting, you can't go anywhere because you don't have power to charge your EV that they forced you to purchase. What's going to happen? Our volunteer fire departments might not be able to get to you because the volunteers in those fire departments, they're average citizens like you or I. If they can't charge their EV to get to the fire station, that's a dangerous situation. Now, insurance premiums are going to go up naturally because during a power outage, if everybody's all electric, imagine tens of thousands of homes out of power. They all got burst pipes. They're all dealing with flood damage, plumbing damage, damage. Food that's not safe to eat anymore. You're damaging. If you have medicine that needs to be regulated at a certain temperature, you're on a CPAP machine. It's dangerous. It really is. And then for now, you file an insurance claim, get everything repaired. Well, add that up. Tens of thousands of people have thousands of damage done to their home because they're told that they're not allowed to protect their home with whatever means they deem as appropriate. And that's going to cost billions of dollars every year for each power outage that happens. And probably what's going to happen in that situation, whoever's sitting in the throne at that time is gonna come on TV. Chuck Schumer probably still somehow be in office at that point. They're gonna stand in front of a camera like they always do and tell everybody what a great job they're doing, and allocating emergency funds and redistributing more of our tax dollars for to solve a problem that they themselves created. So, not environmentally safe. So, a lot of you bleeding hearts out there like to think that, oh, the sun's free, wind's free, why don't we harvest that energy? Well, if that stuff was really efficient, they wouldn't need to use taxpayer dollars to set this infrastructure up. And another thing that happens too, these are private companies, these solar and wind companies, they're private entities. They're making campaign donations, and this is not conspiracy, you can follow the money here. They're making campaign donations to politicians in office, on both sides. It doesn't matter. They all take bribes. In exchange, they get millions of our taxpayer dollars to set this equipment up. And as well as, these are also granted use of eminent domain. Again, eminent domain is not meant for private companies. If Walmart wants to build a building in your house, they should not be allowed to use, or in your community, they should not be able to use eminent domain to force you out of your home so they could set up a business. It's not right. Eminent domain's meant for roads, bridges, flood control, and the like, not private entities. So what happens is they use eminent domain. They force property owners off their land, sometimes that have been there for generations, who were contributing to the tax base. And what I'm going to get into right now, these companies are offered programs such as a pilot or a similar program, so they're not paying property taxes on that property. They've displaced taxpayers, but this equipment's not efficient enough for these private companies to make money off of it, so they need to rely on taxpayers distributed to them by government officials to make it worthwhile for them. So, so that means we're paying for it twice. We're paying for it in our electric bill, which we're paying taxes on, and we're paying for it through all of our other taxes that we pay, because that money's getting redistributed to them. Now, again, they're not contributing to your school. They're not contributing to your town, your county, directly like that. So that's wrong. And again, look at how some of the stuff is made. A lot of you bleeding hearts out there, you don't seem to look at the bigger picture of this stuff. You just look at it, you don't see it. It's not in your backyard. It's right down the road from where I live. I see solar or wind turbines that aren't turning because what happened is that the tax incentive that company was given expired, and they got the hell out of here. So that's property off the tax roll. And unfortunately, the taxpayers are now charged with maintaining that property and trying to find somebody to take over that property. It's a big Ponzi scheme. It's a big waste of money. It's fraudulent. It really is. So, and again, if you look at where some of the stuff is made, they all use petroleum products to build this stuff, whether it's solar or wind. They use petroleum fueled equipment to set this stuff up and to maintain this stuff. When they come in, they're destroying thousands of acres of farmland, of land that could be used for, people, private citizens to build homes, build camps, whatever, and pay taxes on that property. They're destroying thousands of acres. It affects runoff. It affects soil erosion. These wind turbines, they need to be lubricated. If something fails and there's a leak, that oil from that turbine is leaching into the ground. It's affecting the aquifer. And A lot of the rare earth minerals that are in solar panels, they're not made here. They're made by child slave labor in some third world shithole overseas. You know, again, you guys don't see it. It's not in your backyard, so you don't care. You know, if you really cared about, you know, human dignity and the environment, you would look at it at a much bigger scale than, you know, something being set up, you know, 50 miles away from your suburban home that you'll never see. So, yeah, I touched on tax dollar theft and whatnot, but, you know, another thing that's dangerous about this is our politicians, they're exempted from following the same rules that you and I are. So I hear what some of you folks on the left say, you know, we need to hold Trump accountable. You know, nobody's above the law. I don't disagree with that. I agree, nobody's above the law. Why the hell aren't you calling out people on your side? You know, for instance, you know, Hunter Biden lying on the 4473 firearm transaction form. If you or I did that, we'd already be in jail. You know, they're already wasting billions of our taxpayer dollars to go over that case and try to come up with different plea deals to not make President Shits Pants dipshit Biden there look bad. And that's wrong. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If it was a Republican doing that, I'd be just as pissed off. So when you go to the ballot box, or if you're planning on voting for something, actually read this fucking stuff. You know, another thing that goes back on why this stuff is dangerous. The law enforcement professionals, the lawyers, the judges, people who are charged to enforce this stuff have no idea what's in these bills. Because oftentimes these bills are passed in emergency sessions overnight without giving, you know, without the proper due process, without giving us the ability or the time to look into this stuff that they are forcing upon us before it goes to a vote. And then it goes to a vote, and then it costs billions of taxpayer dollars to fight this stuff going back and forth to court. And again, keep in mind, we don't elect rulers. We don't elect dictators. We elect people to represent us. They are charged with representing our interests and protecting our natural liberties and our national sovereignty. That's it. That's how the Constitution lays it out. We're not subjects. They're not rulers. They work for us. They're supposed to represent us. So I know a lot of you have been brainwashed into thinking, well, you can't fight City Hall. You don't question the government. Look at all the crap that they've done. Our country is so fucked up right now that, and you guys just buy into it, hook, line, and sinker. You know, they're distracting us with other smaller issues. Well, they let bullshit like this pass, and it barely even makes the news. So, you know, what's going to happen? You know, you're going to be, it's not a right or left issue. It's a life or death issue. And we need to hold our representatives accountable, right from our local government officials all the way up to the national. You know, there's a ton of corruption in our local governments, and people just put up with it. Well, that's bullshit. You shouldn't put up with it. You need go to your town board meetings, go to your village city board meetings, go to your school board meetings. Hold these people accountable. And one of the solutions is that I want to suggest here, you know, we have the power of the dollar, and we have the numbers to support us. You know, we can't let, you know, a small handful of people sitting in Albany dictate what millions of upstate New York citizens are allowed to do with themselves, with their property, with their families. It's not right. So I would suggest, you know, withholding, you know, put it in escrow. You know, some of these towns and schools need to grow a set and stand up and say, no, we're not paying this. We're going to hold it in escrow until you get your shit straightened out. And then we can come back to the table, because you work for us. We don't work for you. Every time somebody in a school district or a county or a town, or if a sheriff says they're not going to enforce something, what does their Führer Hochul do? or her predecessor, what did he do? They threaten withholding government funds, and then everybody backs off because you act like it's such a big deal. Well, they're stealing close to 70% of our income in New York State. That's wrong. We're paying tax on money we earn twice. We got a federal income tax, which has already been deemed unconstitutional once already. We pay a state income tax. We pay tax on everything we purchase. We pay tax on our property. We pay tax on our vehicles every year or every other year by means of registration. And we already paid sales tax on those vehicles. And, you guys just put up with it. That's bullshit. They should not have to steal close to 70% of our income to function. If you eliminated 90% of this bullshit that we have to pay for, everybody would be far better off. Politicians need term limits. Chucky Schumer should have retired years ago, but he keeps getting reelected somehow because he talks a good talk. He stands in front of a camera every time there's a natural disaster or every time he redistributes government funds, and you all cheer him on like he's some sort of hero. Well, he's not. He's a crook. He's a thief. So, that being said, I'm going to get into some other issues in regards to the state of the politics in the Socialist Republic of New York. And again, read the fucking bills that they want to force upon us before you vote for it. Don't just vote for somebody with a D next to their name. Don't just vote for somebody with an R next to their name and think they're going to support your interest. Because quite honestly, party line voting is how we get pieces of shit in office who destroy our way of life. No. And you folks on the left, this stuff affects you too, whether you know it or not. It sounds mean, but 2035, if you voted for this and you're freezing your ass off in your home and your pipes burst and you can't go anywhere because you can't charge your Nissan Leaf or your Tesla, and you're basically going to say your basement's filling up with water, you're freezing your ass off, you're waiting for somebody to come rescue you, somebody from the government probably. I'm going to laugh at you because you were stupid enough to vote for it and support it. So look into this stuff, get educated. If something's wrong, call it out. Like I said, hold these people accountable. That's how you participate in our government. You got to hold them accountable. Stop letting these people dictate and rule over us, because it's not right. It's not American. And I don't care who's offended by this. Quite honestly, I don't give a fuck if you're offended. It affects me. It affects my business. It affects my family. It affects my property. It affects my life. And it affects yours too, whether you know it or not. So look forward to seeing you on the next video. We're going to get a little deeper into some of this stuff, but it's stuff that needs to be talked about. Again, you hear it from pundits and radio show hosts and everything, from people that are famous. But I wanted to bring this up as just an average blue-collar working American who has to suffer under these egregious legislation and edicts and whatnot. So, again, hope you have a nice day, and keep up the good fight. Be a patriot, and we'll see you in the next one.